We're live. This is episode 3 of Thank You for Playing. I'm here with my good buddy Spencer Silverman. Spencer, say hi.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Nate.
Yep. Spencer is a good friend of mine. He plays a lot of rhythm games, a lot of fighting games. This is kind of what this podcast is about, just gaming stuff.
I do a lot of that, so perfect.
Tell us what games you play.
Currently, I do a lot of Beatmania 2DX, as well as being pretty competitive in BlazBlue and Hearthstone. Other than that, I've just been playing a lot of stuff on the side, some Hollow Knight, been going back and playing some Baten Kaitos Origins, something really old from the GameCube that was cool.
I can't stand Hearthstone. I can't stand it.
It's a fun game, but it lacks some depth. But I feel like that's more of a problem with digital card games than a problem with Hearthstone specifically.
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. I gave it a shot. I gave Hearthstone, I would say, probably 10 hours. 10 hours of actual trying to learn everything. I feel like that's a fair shot for giving a game.
Yeah, that's a decent amount of time to put into it.
And then I was just like, fuck this. Everybody, when we go up to MSD, there's a local community little gathering place we have up here in New England called the MSD. Our good friend Sigmar kind of runs it. And everybody gets so into Hearthstone up there. They put it on the big screen TV. Everybody just goes off on this game. I never have any clue what the fuck is going on.
It takes so much game knowledge for a game like that. Whenever you have something like a card game, you've got to know everything your opponent can do and everything you can do. So it takes so much time to just be able to appreciate the game and watch it and get what's going on. And it's not worth it for everybody.
Yeah, no. Even just like War. The card game War is enough for me. I'll take that.
That one's a little bit simpler, but it's got its merits.
Speaking of game knowledge, I will never know 2DX like you guys know 2DX. I've come to grips with that.
Oh, I don't even think I know 2DX like some of these guys know 2DX. For reference, I'm in like the beginning, middle 12s area, but there's still like over half the game left, it feels like.
Like, how do I put this? I think a game that a lot of people know like the back of their hand, a classic example is DDR Extreme. Like a lot of people grew up in that era. DDR was their first game, and you ask them how many charts are there? 256. They just know everything about the game, just knowing the charts like the back of your hand. And I'm that way. But when I hear people talk that same way about 2DX, I'm just like, how the fuck could you? There's thousands of songs.
I don't even know how many charts there are off the top of my head. I just remember there's like 535 tens, and that's always such a big number. I think we're up to over 212s total now if we're including everything that's been removed, but I couldn't give you an exact number even.
If you don't play Beatmania 2DX, by the way, 2DX, how do you explain it? It's a Guitar Hero is for guitars. Beatmania 2DX is for like if you wanted to be a DJ.
Yeah, that played the piano too.
At
the same time.
At the same time.
It's kind of to simplify it, it's just 7 keys in a kind of a piano arrangement, 4 white and 3 black, and a turntable. Mm-hmm. And then you just hit all of them very fast, very often.
I'll never forget. Many moons ago, I went to Game Crazy when I was still open, and they had Beatmania US. I had the box right over there. You saw it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I pointed that out when I came in.
And I remember he said of this game, he said the easy songs are hard and the hard songs are impossible. And that will stick with me until I die, because that's exactly 2DX. It's like nobody should play this game. Nobody has any reason to go past like a 2 before saying fuck this, but there's this hardcore group of rhythm gamers that's just like, you know what, this is what I'm gonna do with my life. And next thing you know, you're looking at people playing 12s, just like, how the fuck do you do that?
2DX takes a special level of sadism. You don't walk into 2DX and go, I'm gonna have fun. You walk into 2DX and you go, I'm gonna be better than myself. And then you hurt your hands a lot, and then eventually you get there.
People got into it too. You have the hand grip thing.
Oh yeah, no, I have one of those hand exercisers in my car. We pretty much all do. Me, Hav, and Sigma.
I don't go to that level with it. I think with 2DX, I've found my groove with 7s. Sevens are like the kind of easy riding, not really having to try too hard, but still having to put a little bit of effort in. I don't know, man. I just like, I play 8s and it starts to get a little harder. I can play up to 9s, and I've cleared, for reference, I've a solid 9s player, but I can play like some 10.1s, 10.2s. I've cleared hard pianoforte, which is about one of the hardest things I've cleared. So it's not like I'm completely without experience.
Yeah, you've gotten into the game. I think 7s is one of the first major cutoff points for, like, that's the first difficulty where they just assume that you know where all of the buttons are. And then 10s is like the next step up where they start actually adding density into the equation. And then 12s is where the game starts, because Jesus, there's so much stuff. You know, you can pass some of the beginning, like I've passed beginning 12s, and there's still songs in the 12 difficulty that I can't even look at.
I think anybody who doesn't play 2DX, like, you owe it to yourself to look up literally any 12 and just see what a 12 in 2DX looks like. The difficulty rating scale goes from 1 to 12, and I think 12s are just stupid. I think they're the stupidest thing on the planet. Like, I love rhythm games, but I just don't know if I could ever get to that level of, like, giving that much of a fuck about a game that I could do that.
It's a weird experience, because I remember passing my first 12. Like, you look at it for forever. I was even playing 11s, and I'm like, I'm never going to pass a 12. That stuff's ridiculous. And then you actually get there, and you're like, holy shit, I did one of those things. And, like, that's one of the things about 2DX is that you get to 12s, and you're like, oh, wow, I'm at the highest difficulty. You're like, no, you're not. There's a lot more to go. Even just with it, like, it's an exponentially more difficult game. Like, there's as big of a variance between 1s and 7s as there are between 8s and 10s, as there is just within the 12 difficulty. It's just such a, like, the power scaling just gets reduced so much. I think there's a decent chance we might see a rewrite sometime, like they have done with DDR and Sunvoltex.
You might want to move closer to the microphone. I told you, man.
Right.
Spencer and I are literally, we're about a foot away from each other's face right now with the Blue Yeti's interview mode.
It is a candlelit evening with Nate Lamore.
But when you see people, this is a good question for rhythm games. When you see people who are like, what's his name, Dolce?
Dolce.
Yeah. Like, Dolce is pretty much not argued. There's like no arguing. He's like the best 2DX player out there. Most people
arguable until like this past year. I think there's one other guy in Japan that's like just about as good. Like, they're actually fighting back and forth on some scores now, but that's new.
Point is, he's one of the top players.
Yep,
like truly skilled.
Absolutely insane.
So the question is, when you see a player like that, does it motivate you or demotivate you to get better at the game?
When I see people who are better than me that I know, like we have Sigma who's significantly higher than me, like that's motivating. It's like, I want to beat that guy. When I see Dolce, I'm just like, that guy is not human. I shouldn't expect to reach these feats, which isn't the right way to look at it, of course. It should be like, yeah, I'm going to get that good, but he's on another level. He's a whole separate beast. I'm just like breaking into 12s yet, and he's getting like 60 less than the maximum possible score on these thousands and thousands of note songs.
Yeah, for me, I gotta be honest, it kind of demotivates me a little bit. I'm just like, when I watch like Chris Chike, who just won the Konami Arcade Championship for DDR, when I see him play, I'm just like, fuck, am I gonna do? He literally just like MFC'd the least 100 seconds, which, if you don't know, DDR Extreme was like a really technical song because of a bunch of BPM changes and shit like that.
We have that in 2DX now, actually. We just got it, and I think Pendual?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I think it was Pendual.
And I just look at that and I'm like, am I ever really going to try and compete with that? But a lot of people would be like, that's a scrub attitude, buddy. You better...
That's how I feel, too. I don't really plan on getting to Dolce's level, but I'm sure once I get up further, that might change my mindset.
I think everybody wants to be that place. Everybody sees players who are particularly good, and they all want to be that, but it takes such like a mix of things to be able to get where you want to be, if that's where you want to be. Like, you have to have natural talent, I'll say that, all day long, to an extent, practice, and time. Just so much time to...
Oh, does it ever take time?
Yeah.
I will say, about natural talent, I think all that natural talent does at the end of the day is decide how much time you have to put into it. I don't think I've ever met someone and been like, that person could never pass 12s, other than like an attitude issue. But... It does take some people a lot less time. We've had people get Kaiden in a year. I've known people who've been playing for 12 years and can't get Kaiden. I don't think that that's I think there's definitely talent involved there, but I don't think those people who haven't gotten Kaiden yet are never going.
Kaiden, by the way, is basically like the black belt of 2DX.
Yeah,
it's you have to pass a very, very hard course and like an onslaught of like 4 very hard songs.
4 of the hardest songs on one bar. You can't, if you fail out of anything that you do in any of the songs carries over to the next one. So you get 100% meter that carries over between all 4. So if you do really bad on the first one, you're already starting out at a deficit for the second.
I've had this discussion about natural talent with a friend of ours, and he doesn't think it is a thing. And I think that's ridiculous. We will forever disagree on this. But I think that, of course, natural talent is a thing. Like, people are born with different brains that are going to have different strengths and weaknesses. Somebody that can do a Sudoku puzzle might not be able to draw a picture, People have different... and that kind of applies to rhythm games in a way. I think some people have a little extra something, but the thing is, my mentality has always been, I think that your skill level is an equation, is a very simple equation. It's natural talent times practice. Somebody who is extremely naturally talented but doesn't practice that much, if you are a not that naturally talented player but you work your ass off, you will eventually overcome that person. It goes the other way. If somebody is very naturally talented and practices like a whole lot, it stands to reason that you'll never, ever beat that person.
I can agree to that. I just think that it's like you said, it's an equation. I think that anyone could achieve anything in any of these games, but some people are going to have to work a lot harder than others.
Like, for me with DDR, I would say there was a point when I was one of the best players in New England, and that's going to piss some people off probably. But I would say around 2010 was when I hit my peak, and Lizzie hadn't really
hit her stride yet.
She was getting there, but like she wasn't where she is now.
Yeah, she's a terror now. I was one of the things that we're going to talk about later, the tournament that's coming up. One of my friends was like, "Man, I hope I just don't get matched with Lizzie."
And there were other players. I would never make that claim for In the Groove, but for DDR, I was for a while. I was at AAA like Cartoon Heroes on Command and at least 100 Seconds, and I was getting close to AAAing the 10s. I was,
back when that was the highest difficulty, right?
Yeah, back when that was a thing.
Yeah.
But all of that, I had to work for. I've come to realize I don't have a lot of natural talent when it comes to these rhythm games. Every score I've ever gotten was because I had to work my ass off to figure out how do I time this? What the fuck is MA? I remember, do you know what white flashes are in DDR?
No.
So when you're playing on DDR Extreme, if you look over the targets of the arrows as you're playing, there's a small little flash. If you get a perfect, it could be either yellow or white. There's a small yellow or white flash. If it flashes white, you actually get a marvelous.
Oh, so is that the only way that you can tell?
That's the only way that you can tell what your MA is like when you're playing on DDR Extreme, because at that point in the game, they didn't have marvelouses enabled outside of, obviously, the course modes. But I remember when I learned what that was, it's like a whole new aspect of the game, MA, and I had to learn everything in that game. It comes back to the discussion of, do you just kind of practice and get way better out of nowhere, or do you have to work for your scores? I think I like having to have work a little more.
I think it makes things a lot more impressive. I feel like it was the same thing for me. I came into 2DX without doing any other rhythm games. Like, everyone at least was like either, I did DDR back in the arcade era, or I did Guitar Hero in the console era. I did neither of those. I jumped straight into 2DX, and it was a miserable climb for a really long time.
That's awesome, but terrifying at the same time.
I was stuck on 3s for like a month and a half, and it was a nice change of pace because I had to fight for every step of the way until about 10s, and from there the game got a lot easier to advance in, which is kind of weird and the opposite of how it's supposed to go. But I think that's because I came in without any natural talent. I'm used to struggling for 3s, so like struggling a little bit for 10s or 11s isn't something that's new to me, whereas a lot of people blow through those early difficulties and then get stuck somewhere at the top.
Threes. Oh man, I remember threes. I remember when the blue notes were hard.
Oh my god, every time you see a blue note, you're just like, oh
Fuck,
no.
which one is that?
The turntable would come down and there'd be a note with it, and you're like, how do I do this? You'd get the note next to the turntable and the turntable at the same time, and you're like, there's no way.
There's no way.
How do you hit that?
How do I hit that? I still get that way. I still get that way. Unless it's like on the 1 or 2 key. If there's like a 3-note chord and a turntable scratch, I'm still like, how the fuck do I do that?
I still see stuff like there's the 2-3 chords, and if we're doing like a series of 2-3 chords, like a 2-3 jack on while doing stuff on the turntable, it still screws me up. Every time I get a random with one of those, it's like, oh no, there goes my meter.
So something that I wanted to talk about was we have the Cannonballers coming up.
We do.
Speaking of 2DX.
Yeah, the 25th edition of 2DX.
Or as you like to say,
Sparrow's Pizza style, because it just looks like the Sparrow's logo. It's not just that they're doing the Italian colors, but it's also like the exact like brightness of the colors is the exact same as the Sparrow's Pizza thing, and all the 2DX locations are in malls where they have Sparrow's Pizza courts, so I think it's a crossover.
Cannonballers, the new game that's coming out, is probably going to be the whitest 2DX version that's come out so far. It's literally like NASCAR themed.
Yeah. I think it's like Italian
game.
Forza racing. I suppose that's why they have the Italian flag.
So I'm expecting a lot of Eurobeat.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. We got Cars Style. We're going to get more Girls in Cars videos. We got a lot of those.
And I don't know. I like Eurobeat. I think it's a cartoon of a musical genre. It's just like over the top fucking...
So a lot of 2DX actually made me think that I didn't like Eurobeat, because a lot of the Eurobeat that's in 2DX is Y & Co, and I really don't like Y & Co.
No?
I don't like Y & Co at all, which is hilarious because I love Remocon. So I, for a long time, just thought I didn't like Eurobeat, and then someone was like, just listen to the Initial D soundtrack, and I've been doing that recently, and it's so good. It's like goofy and fun and not this Y & Co stuff that I don't like.
If you haven't listened to Eurobeat, you got to check it out. Look up Night of Fire. I love Night of Fire.
Look up Gas, Gas, Gas. That's my favorite. But Night of Fire is actually in 2DX, so if you want a feel for the good Eurobeat in 2DX, you can check out that one.
And of course, with this new game is going to come a new unlock system, which I personally don't care for at all. Fuck unlock systems. I am so sick of having to go through this maze and attack the monster with my fucking turntable or whatever this quote-unquote storyline is. I don't give a fuck about this stuff. Can you just give me the songs?
I was a big fan of the Tricoro unlock system specifically, because they just had a grid, and even though it was just grinding, it looked cool, it was stylish, and I had fun with it, and like it made you have like a goal or whatever. And now in these new styles, it's just a lot of bullshit, like playing certain songs in a certain order that they don't tell you you're supposed to play, and then suddenly the song magically appears. There's just been a lot of that recently, and I'm not a fan of looking up guides just to figure out how I can play songs. But I guess they have to have something. They have to make you play in the arcade. They can't just give you all of the stuff for free, because then you would just pass it and never come back.
I'm a big fan of the cheat codes.
Cheat codes.
Cheat codes, yeah. Like any remember what happened to cheat codes? We used to have these awesome cheat codes in like old games where you could just put in a little combination and unlock everything. Like, why can't we have that for fucking 2DX? I'll pay for it. I will totally do 2DX DLC and just like let me download everything. I don't want to go through these stupid fucking little journey things you have to go after your set.
I'm sure if you told Konami directly that you would give them like $1,000 for them to unlock the songs on your account, I'm sure they'd come around. But until we petition them for the wallet unlock system, they're probably not going to take us up on it.
I'm kind of that piece of shit player that when the new 2DX comes out, I just play the old songs I always play. I don't give a fuck, man. I just like to play what I play. If I hear a new song that I like, I'll be like, all right, I'll play it. But I'm not one of these players that like has this compulsion to play every new song.
Oh, see, when I come in, it's like, oh man, I've played all of these old songs like 100 times each. Finally, there's a new chart in this goddamn game. The Copula stuff's been out. I've played it all like 10 to 15 times, and it's like, all right, that's enough of you, Copula. So I'm like, you get to the point where you're just dying for new charts.
Or even worse, like every song, every style rather has its like rock star songs, as I like to call them, like they're bangers.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm that guy who will just play those over and over again. I'll play Donkey Donk all day long.
You think Donkey Donk's a banger?
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh.
Miracle Sympho X, when that was a thing.
Okay, I can agree to that one. Mine was always Sick. That was my favorite like banger song from Takoro. And more recently, like DPS. I think DPS was like the most popular song in Copula, or like up there. I know a lot of people like Nightmare Before Oversleep, but it's fine.
So, I don't know. I'll play it, but I am quickly becoming a much more casual, not just 2DX player, but rhythm game player in general. Like, I used to be hardcore into DDR. You know, I was the tournament guy. I ran all these tournaments. A lot of people know me for that. I got to the point where I was actually halfway decent at one point, competitively speaking, but I just kind of like to chill out now, man. I like to just play on light mode and not sweat in public.
There's this crazy thing called fun. And
yeah.
When you play enough rhythm games, you kind of forget that it's part of the game.
Shauna says when I do spins and fuck around on DDR, she says to me, you are the only person that looks like you're actually having fun. I'm like, yes, I am, because this is what the game is to me. And I don't give a shit about score anymore. It's such a beautiful thing to just let go. Just to let go.
I can't. See, that's so foreign to me. It sounds amazing. I'll have to try it one day. I just remember breaking through like a wall that I was having, and I went back and played some old songs, and I was like, wow, this is fun. I almost forgot this game could be that. And I guess it just kind of shows the rhythm game player mindset where, like, you get really into achieving stuff and you almost forget that you're playing a game and not, like, working your job or something.
Exactly. So there are people who literally play these games like a full-time job, and I was totally one of those people. I used to play DDR for 8 to 12 hours a day. It's nice when your family owns an arcade and you can do that.
Yeah, it probably makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, but now it's just like I'll play when I can play. If I feel like it, I'll play. If not, I don't. You know, I don't have this like compulsion to have to play anymore, which is nice, because when it starts to become like a job, and when you see people like going for a score and they don't get it and they flip out, like, is that really fun?
See, that's one thing that I've never really gotten. I've never let the game get me so worked up. Like, you obviously get upset, you 78 a song. That sucks, but other than that, I don't know. It's hard for me to get too worked up.
I don't know. I watched enough people try to AAA Extreme where after a certain point I was like, is this something I really want to do? Because I forever wanted AAA Extreme. I still kind of do. There's a part of me that will always want to. But especially in a game where there's no Marvelouses, like, at least on DDR Ace or anything after Supernova 2, you have Marvelouses. So if you get a great, you can still kind of go by your MA to see how well you were doing. Whereas if you get a great on a song you're trying to AAA, that you have a personal best of one grade on, it's like, fuck, there's no reason to play the rest of the song. You watch people just flip out. I watched some people say some horrible things on streams when they thought I wasn't watching because they got a great on a DDR song.
That's gotta be the worst, man. That stuff's soul crushing sometimes.
So I don't know, man. I just like to spin around now. I like to fucking have fun with it.
Maybe one of these days I'll spin around. I don't think we don't really have an equivalent for that in 2DX. There's a lot less movement required.
I think there is, though. I think it's about playing with style. Like, I think the equivalent for 2DX would probably be like maybe playing with one hand. I don't know. I like just doing like weird shit on DDR. Like, I'll play with one foot. I'll play with my back to the screen. You've seen me do this stuff up at MSD. Yeah.
All these crazy spins, just not looking at the screen for really long periods of time.
For really long periods of time. So there is this new arcade called Freeplay Bar Arcade. It's in Providence, and they have an air hockey machine, which of course I love, but they also have a DDR Extreme machine there, and I was dumbfounded that this thing was in like good condition.
I can't believe there's an arcade, the new arcade, that carries a DDR machine now.
It runs. Did I say it runs Extreme?
Yes.
Yeah, it runs Extreme, and it's not often that a new location pops up at all, but it's very rare that a new location pops up and the pads are good.
Yeah.
Like, granted, I did start having some issues when I was playing there yesterday, but I mean, it was sensitive enough that I could hit like corner jumps with one foot and be bracketing stuff. I mean, that you don't see that. Like most new locations, you're like praying that the machine is just barely playable.
Yeah, you expect them to have like the oldest, shittiest, most inherited machine that they can find. Because no one wants to, like, you don't really see people paying money for these expensive arcade machines that, like, only appeal to a niche community these days.
And it's kind of cool, man, because I've already run into 3 players who recognized me from my family's arcade. And that was Jesus Christ.
10 years ago?
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
We closed 5 years ago. And those people are still around, still playing DDR. It's like, I don't know what it is that you can just put a DDR machine somewhere and the player will just kind of find it like through the ether.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come. That's basically why GU functions. They have all the arcade machines, and they're like the only place that you can go unless you want to go to round one and spend a literal fortune.
That's Game Underground, by the way. If you're not from the area, Game Underground in Natick, Massachusetts, a wonderful arcade.
Yeah,
Let's check it out. Well, something that I really like about this new arcade is, well, first off, it's 21 plus. Oh my God!
Oh, man.
Thank you for no kids.
That's perfect.
Not having to worry about like stomping some kid in the face because kids don't give a fuck.
Oh,
They will.
God.
They
I've
will.
seen so many videos of kids like running underneath DDR players' feet while they're playing. It's the worst.
And if you're really cruel, you just don't give a fuck and just step on them
I've
anyways.
seen a lot of kids eat shit. Let me say.
So that's great. And they actually, this is really important, I think. There's, they do drag shows there, actually. They do drag shows on Mondays.
That's going to be fun with the DDR.
Yeah. Well, when they do the drag show, there is this stage area that it's kind of like a raised platform that the drag queens would go and do their thing on. Well, that area just got cleared, and the DDR machine got put in that area. So now you have this DDR machine that's like on this raised up platform. It's kind of in the eye of the whole arcade. If you're playing on doubles mode, you get to show off a little bit, get a crowd.
So it sucks if you eat shit.
Yes, if you fall off the pads, it's extra embarrassing. I don't know. I like to have a DDR machine or any rhythm game in like prominent locations where it's going to get a lot of foot traffic or a lot of eyes on the
I think
game.
no matter where you put a DDR machine, it's going to get a lot of foot traffic.
Oh, God. I'll shut off this podcast right now. I fucking hate you guys with your Baymani pun sentences that aren't even funny.
Sigmas are the worst, though. Like, so I've heard some clever ones, and I try to keep mine to that, but Sigma's just like, is there a way that I can stick a 2DX song name into that sentence? And then he will, and he'll do it like, we'll have like really serious like business conversations, like we'll lay out some stuff for like our tournament that's coming up, and we'll like, all right, Sigma, we gotta do this, this, and this, and something in that sentence will translate into a Bomani song name, and then there's a joke, and ignored the rest of your sentence.
You mentioned this tournament that's coming up in business meetings, and tell us a little bit about System Arcadia.
System Arcadia is just a business that Sigma is running with a couple of us, where the main goal is just
good buddy Sigma.
Yeah. His goal is just to be able to bring arcade machines to locations for events, kind of in the same capacity that Anthony Capobianco does for Tokyo Attack, although just on like a smaller scale, more locally. We've just I think the last event that we did in that capacity was just some bar was running an event for PAX East, and we brought them some arcade machines for people to play on while they were there. And then other than that, the other thing that we do is we bring DJs over who have played in these games. We brought over Technork a couple of years ago, and this past year we just brought over Korske, and give them a place to perform and, book venues and sell tickets for that. We're also going to be participating in helping throw GUAC, which is the GU Arcade Championship held at the arcade that we mentioned earlier at the Natick Mall. And this is going to be the second annual GUAC. Sigma threw the one last year outside of just by himself with GU outside of System Arcadia, but this year we're helping as a business. And that's going to be really cool. It's one of the only rhythm game tournaments we get on this coast, the other one being Champs. I think those are the only two, right?
Well, there's obviously like lots of scattered DDR tournaments and kind of isolated things. Yeah. But as far as multi-tournaments go, like big events like that, I'm not aware of any other ones like, of that caliber.
So for reference, at this tournament, we're going to have 2DX, DDR... one other dance game. I don't remember the name.
I think they were just figuring that out on Facebook.
Yeah. There was a second one that I think it's two different editions of DDR. And then Reflect Beat, because we actually have a really hardcore Reflect Beat community in this area. Poppin', U-Beat, and then a couple of arcade games, or more classic arcade games, which you would know more about.
Yes. My favorite thing, I was actually one of the tournament directors last year for air hockey.
And I believe you are going to be this year as well, right?
Yep, for air hockey. Air hockey is kind of my wheelhouse. I haven't talked about air hockey on this podcast yet.
Nate Lemoy slaughters people at air hockey.
Not recently, man. I've lost 7 times in the last 2 weeks, which is like so
That's
crushing.
7 more times than you lost in the 2 weeks before that.
But yeah, what I love about the Game Underground Arcade Championship is the fact that it's the arcade championship. It's not the Game Underground Music Gaming Championship. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The fact that you have these classic games, pinball and air hockey and skee ball, as part of the overall event, I think it separates it from these like Champions of the Coast type events, because
It's got a wider appeal. There's more, like,
Right.
anyone can come in and play like skee ball. Like, I think like the best guy we're gonna get from that isn't gonna be one of our music game guys. It's gonna be someone from off the street who just happens to be really good at skee ball.
and it gives people who aren't into music games a way to be competitive, because I was close to almost I potentially could have won Game Underground Arcade Championship last year if I had entered more music games, because I won air hockey, and like it gives, you see how it makes it competitive for people who aren't really
it
into,
gives you guys an option.
yeah, an option.
And like, I'm gonna get thrashed at 2DX too, and that's unfortunately the only rhythm game that I can enter. But like, I'm gonna enter skee ball too, and then maybe I've got a little bit more of a chance.
So last year was really, really interesting for air hockey. It was probably one of the most thrilling competitive experiences I've had as far as like gaming stuff goes, because what I did is I invented a new seeding system, a way to seed people in air hockey, because it's so easy to seed a tournament in like a rhythm game or DDR, for example, because you just have people play a qualifier, you rank the scores, and then, you know, first seed plays 16th seed, and so on and so forth, because you have just a score you can go by. How do you seed a fighting game? It's like seeding a fighting game. How do you seed air hockey when there's no score to judge by? Your skill level is kind of a
Unknown factor.
unknown factor.
You don't know how good anyone who walks in is going to be. You can't have them play one song and then know. You can't have them play a game and be able to judge them.
It's more of a matter of not being able to measure objectively. Well, I did this, and me, who has not lost an air hockey tournament at Game Underground, proceeded to seed last under my own seeding system.
How did you manage that?
It's so embarrassing. It was bad. I just fucked up really badly during the quote-unquote qualifier, and I ended up having to... So that means... I don't know how much you guys know about how tournament seedings work, but basically in a tournament, the first seed or the person qualified to be the best will play the last ranked person. The second person will play the second to last person. The third person will play the third to last ranked person. So as the last seed, that means in every single round, I have to play the top ranked player. That's a fucking nightmare. For like any single given round, I have to play the best player that's ranked in that round. And to make things worse, I lost my first match. Like people,
Your second match at GU.
yeah, I've never even lost a match at GU previous to this, and right out the gate, people are expecting... I was the first match of the day, and people are expecting me to just stomp on this guy, and I lost. So that then means I had to trudge my way through the whole losers bracket, playing the best player in every single round, and I ended up winning the tournament. That was the most work that I've ever had to...
It's the ultimate run back.
Yeah, it's the ultimate run back. Lose your first match as the last seed, and then work your way through the entire losers bracket, and get the reset in the winners final, and win the match after that. Like, I've never felt like I had my back so up against the wall, but I felt like I had something to prove, you know?
Some would say that you rigged it so that you could be last place to work all your way through all the best players.
No, that would be the worst. I mean, that would be the most contrived way to try to rig your own tournament.
Rig yourself to have the hardest time of anyone.
So I'm getting ready for the air hockey tournament coming up at this next one, the second annual one. And I got to tell you, man, like, I'm losing games. My record for the last 2 weeks is 60-7. So a lot of people look at the 60 and they're like, that's a lot of fucking wins.
But that's 7 more losses than you were getting before.
Yeah. for me, I would expect to be like 67 or like 66 and 1 or like 65 and 2. Like, I don't like losing, but the fact is I'm a little rusty, and it's reminding me that I'm still vulnerable. And that is actually pushing me to get better a lot more quickly than I thought I would.
Well, we're going to be playing some air hockey tonight after this, right?
Yeah, me and Spencer are going to the gym, and then we're going to Legion Pub in Cranston. We're going to shoot some pool and play some air hockey.
No DDR Supernova with that one, though.
Do you like air hockey?
Yeah, I like it a fair amount. I've enjoyed air hockey in the past. I wouldn't say that I played anything close to a competitive level, but you told me that secret where now I can look at anyone who's playing and tell if they're good or not.
Oh yeah, the
hand trick,
the grip.
Yep.
There's a way to tell whether someone's serious or not in air hockey, and you just look at the way they hold the mallet. If they hold it like everybody holds it, like every person you've ever seen in your life hold an air hockey mallet, they're not good. But if they hold it with like a claw grip, then you can tell they're playing for real.
Shauna does that now, by the way.
Yeah?
I saw her do that. I forget what event we were at, but she was playing air hockey with just some random guy, and I was like, wow, Shauna, you're really going ham on this guy. You got the grip. She's like, yeah, Nate Lemoy taught me right.
Anyways, we are going to head out to the gym, and
then Nate's going to kick my ass at air hockey to get ready for GUAC.
I'm expecting to get wrecked at pool, honestly.
Well, we'll see. I don't think there's going to be any competition at air hockey. I might get lucky in pool, though.
So that's the podcast. I'm sorry about some of the clipping. I know I'm learning how to do the recording here, but I think it was good.
Yeah, I had fun being here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. See you next week.